Nice. Tell me wisdom beyond my comprehension. Woo, right on, guys. Very cool. So, a lot of you guys like that Taco Bell politics analogy that I was talking about the other day, and it's pretty amazing on how many people have messaged me and have come to me and talked to me about that, saying they love this analogy and how they have always tried to figure out this left-right paradigm kind of thought when people would say there's no difference between the parties, and then when you look at it from a Taco Bell kind of menu point of view, it really starts making a lot of sense when everything that you order from Taco Bell has the same filling. It's just what kind of wrapper do you want it in? And man, a lot of people really related to that. So that was a lot of fun to kind of, give people my thoughts on politics, especially when it comes to, the different parties or the two parties that we have to vote from. It really doesn't make any difference which way you're voting. It's more about how you're gonna take it. Like, what do you want? Do you want, spicy burrito or soft taco? That's really how it comes down. Right on. 60 of you up in here. So good. Go and hit that like button. That'll get the algorithm to pick up the video and start sending it around so everybody else can come into the chat and we can have a nice conversation. Just got to keep talking about the king dollar. Got to keep talking about the dollar strengthening, and it's starting to really impact the rest of the world. Now, here in the United States, nobody believes that the dollar is going to strengthen. Like, if you go and talk to the average person who doesn't follow economics, they just kind of follow the narrative of what's being told to them on the news. They are convinced that we have inflation. Inflation is going to destroy everybody. And if you ask anybody outside of the United States, they would be more than happy to take as many dollars as you have. They need them desperately, and there is sovereign debt, corporate debt crisis taking place all over the world right now, and it's really starting to exasperate itself. Now, take a look down in the description. I have way too many links down there this time, so there's plenty to read about. It's happening. I kind of look over to China to see what's going to happen throughout the rest of the economy, because seems to me that everything's kind of happening in China first, and then it starts taking place across the rest of the world. And you think about it, they were the first ones to get COVID, they were the first ones to lock down, they were the first ones to open up, they were the first ones to start going into quantitative tightening. They were the first ones to start having the defaults taking place as far as their economy goes, and their, like, whether it's their sovereign debt, or they haven't gone into default, but they're going into, I mean, as far as the Chinese bonds, the government bonds, but all the corporations, well, a good fair amount of them, especially the builders, the developers, they're getting hit hard, and that's going to be very painful for the rest of the economy over there in China, because pretty much everything kind of follows whatever's happening in real estate. So if the real estate market's crumbling, then most likely the economy is not going to do very well. And it's pretty obvious that people aren't making their payments over there. They got bank runs. They got a lot of hell happening. And to think about that happening here in the United States, well, as this crisis starts to take place around the world, it's going to strengthen our dollar. And it's going to make our imports coming into this country a whole lot cheaper. And already we have massive amount of imports happening from the oversupply that has come from the bullwhip effect. Now, we talked about the bullwhip effect before anybody else. Like, it was a viewer on the channel. I was describing the things that I was seeing at work, because I work in a lumber yard. I do retail sales for a living. I was describing these things happening at work, and I was like, man, this is not going to go end well. We got people who are allocating our orders, so we're ordering more than what we would typically do to try and get our normal supply in. And with people like panic buying and taking everything off the shelf, this is causing a overheated demand that just simply doesn't exist. Now, it does in the fear kind of style, where people are panic buying, and then also like the allocations where you order more than what you need. But that's the ripple that starts going through the economy, or especially through the distribution networks, where they can't see this clear picture. And by the time it gets up to the manufacturers, all they see is just this overwhelming consumer demand. So they just start pushing out a lot of stuff. Well, guess what? The stuff is coming, and we really didn't want it. We just wanted the one or two, but we ordered 20 because there was panic buying and allocation. So now we're going to be having this whole inventory issue starting to take place. The Federal Reserve loves that. They love the idea that the supply chain is going to help them out. Now, that is really where the issue starts to really kind of manifest itself, because Can the Federal Reserve fix a supply chain breakdown with the lifting of interest rates? And that has been a concern of mine for a while. If you lift the interest rates, you're going to make it harder on entrepreneurs to borrow money or to find the investments out there. If an investor is going to lend money to an entrepreneur to start the business or conduct business, well, then they're going to want to get the best interest rate for that. I mean, why would you lend it to an entrepreneur who's probably going to end up losing it? And if you can like get a safer return by, like, say, investing money with the U.S. government. So as the interests begin to rise, it's going to make it ever more difficult for entrepreneurs to get their start and get moving into things as far as getting those products from the ships through the distribution network to the retailers and then actually out to the consumer. That's going to be a very difficult task as long as the interest rates continue to rise. So yes, the Fed can kind of fix the inflation problem with the rising of interest rates, but it's not because they're going to slow down consumer spending. It's because they're actually going to let entrepreneurs come into the game again once they start to lower the interest rates. I mean, I don't know if I quite said that right. I kind of fumbled that up a little bit. But that's ultimately what's happening here, is that the Fed is counting on the supply side to fix the inflation problem, and they're going to try and solve the inflation expectations with the lifting of interest rates. So there's two kind of things happening there at once. Once the expectation is there and that they have solved that problem where, okay, we're not seeing any higher interest rates or higher inflation coming, really what's going to do it is going to be the jobs, right? So once the jobless claims start to rise, right, once we start getting unemployment, that'll give them the cue to go ahead and start lowering interest rates again to try and deal with the unemployment, because they have a dual mandate: low and stable prices and full employment. So the low and stable prices, that's going to come once the supply chain is freed up and starts moving again. The unemployment, that's going to come once all the zombie corporations get their heads knocked off. So as the interest rates rise and those zombie corporations can't feed on the incredibly cheap debt anymore, then it's all over for them. And they're going to end up going out of business. The people who lose their jobs will go over to the more viable jobs, and then the unemployment will begin to rise because people who ended up with a job that they shouldn't have had because they weren't trained or skilled, or they were just going for some title. That's what I heard. And other people are taking jobs just simply because the title of the job is like makes them feel proud or something, like they're looking for the status or something with it. Anyway, I drank a lot of coffee already this afternoon. What are you guys talking about? Thumbs up, people. Yes, please. There's 252 of you in here. Please go hit that thumbs up. Let's get this video spread around. You all need to watch Maverick on Wall Street. All right. How much longer do we have to wait for good deals to be everywhere? Well, I don't know. Let's see. I just sold a deck package for about $4,300 a month. Let's see, it was a little over a month ago, about closer to 6 weeks. That same deck package was quoted at $6,000. So there's been a dramatic drop inside of the lumber prices. That's a pretty good deal. My boy is looking at TVs all over the internet. I'm going to have to buy him a TV here probably this week or next week, because he's really is like, Dad, when are we going to get the TV, right? So he's finding killer deals all over the internet when it comes to TVs. Now, a lot of people don't really care about TVs, and they don't really care about a new deck package. What they do care about is food and fuel. Well, I mean, I'm seeing fuel coming down. It's not a lot. It's still way expensive. I had to fill up the car, and it just blows me away that I could put $50 worth of gas in this car, but it happens. But that's coming down. I mean, I saw it was at it was over $5 a couple of days ago. It was at $4.99 when I came into town, and $4.95 when I left town earlier today. I haven't checked it again, so I don't know what it is right now. But fuel prices are starting to tick down a little bit. Inventory of homes is starting to rise, although not significant enough for me to believe that we are going to see any kind of real downturn in the housing market. I mean, even if they were to triple the inventory right now, it still would be historically low inventory. What we are looking for is for a lot of houses to be on the market, and for those houses to be like going through a typical buyer's, like, you have a typical healthy market when you have multiple offers and, many viewings and, a game of like, where you throw offers back and forth. That's a typical housing market, and we ain't even close to normal yet, but signs are showing. I mean, they're starting to pop up everywhere. Once we start seeing this being a more prevalent thing in the housing market, then you'll probably see housing come down, or at least the real estate market start to come down. But as far as right now, ain't seeing it. Another thing that we should probably watch for is that unemployment. Once unemployment begins to rise, you're probably going to start seeing a lot more inventory on the market. And so that's another thing to watch for. So the lifting of interest rates is going, like I said, is going to do a damage to these zombie corporations and to the zombie people. I mean, everybody who is like at the extent of their debt, like I mean, I just jump everywhere, don't I? That was another thing, like not foreclosures, but repossessions of vehicles is starting to happen a lot more. And you think about it, if you go out and buy a brand new car, you're like, woohoo, during the stimulus, when that was being handed out to everybody, you ran down, bought a car, and now you're making a car payment to the extent of what you could possibly afford, but you got this killer ride that you're going around in. Well, pretty soon you can't afford the gas, and you certainly can't afford to go out to eat, so what's the point of driving the car any longer? Why are you even making the payment on it? Because it's very difficult. So the next thing you know, these cars are going to start getting repossessed, and you're going to start finding more inventory of vehicles out there. It's going to take some time to work into the economy. You got to think, like, when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year before that really starts impacting the economy. The food and fuel, that has issues with people right now. So it's happening. Give it some time and you'll start seeing more and more signs of it. I'm seeing more repo trucks. Yeah. I mean, we're going to find these car lots that were completely empty are going to be packed soon. I mean, I wouldn't say soon. I don't know how long it's going to take, but, it's going to happen. I mean, it's happening now, so it's just a matter of time. I want $10 silver. Oh, yeah. A lot of people would be scared to see $10 silver. I'm not. I would be definitely, be under on my silver purchases. But at $10, if you could find it, I would be all over that stuff. Hey, Matthew, thank you very much for the $20. Do you think the adjusted rate mortgage being the only option in Canada will impact the U.S. in any way? Super chat man, he's doing. Oh, thank you very much. He's doing the work for us. I would have to look a little bit more into the Canadian market. That has blown me away that we have seen prices, well, we haven't. The Canadians have seen prices go up as high as they have and still like not pop the housing market. It's just like unreal to me how they can do that. But things are changing again up there as well. So back to the question, if you think the adjusted mortgage rates, well, I guess it would depend on how far out extended those people are who have those mortgage rates. Now, if I remember right, aren't the majority of Canadian mortgages adjustable rate mortgages? That would be very concerning. I mean, to think that, all of a sudden all these these payments, these interest payments that they're making on their mortgages start going up, especially during a time when you have issues with employment. Like if you can't go out and just get a job or maybe even get a second job to make your payments, if those interest rates were to, or the mortgage rates were to rise, that's going to be really hard, right? Because typically people can say, well, even if I have a job and I'm not able to make my payments, at least there's all these other jobs out there that I could go and get, maybe work a night job or something. But if you don't have that option, then you're going to start seeing some serious issues. But then again, like Matthew and I had talked about a while ago, how many of those mortgages are written to people who, even if they had an adjusted rate, if they were to adjust up to that adjusted rate, that new adjusted rate, how many people are already qualified to be in that position so that they could make those rates already? That would be a pretty big question to ask. Like, how much income to their debt do they really have in Canada, and how impactful will that be? I don't know. I have to learn a little bit more about the mortgage market in Canada and how that operates. Let's see here. Did you hear today that food bank lines are now longer than before the inflation? I hadn't heard that one, but it's not surprising. I mean, like I said, with the cost of food and fuel, I mean, I think about people who buy a new truck and they've taken out a loan to the extent of what they can pay. So now they have, like, I mean, I'm just going to make up a number, a $500-$600 payment on their truck because they just bought a brand new one. The insurance on that is going to be off the chart. So, I mean, depending on how good of a driver you are, I would imagine that you're probably going to end up paying somewhere just to even drive it remotely around. You're probably looking at $1,000 a month just to drive your pickup truck. Holy moly. I mean, I think about that and I'm like, Gee whiz. Well, I mean, I paid $500 for this car. The insurance on it, I think, is like somewhere around $50 a month. I don't even know. It gets like 25, 28 miles to the gallon. This truck or this vehicle cost me probably somewhere around $110 a month to drive. So yeah, it's like 10% of the cost of the what other people are using to just get around and do the same thing that I'm doing with it. I don't look as cool. I don't know. I mean, I guess $900 to look cool might be nice too. All right, 400 of you up in here. Be sure and hit the like button, guys. Get some more people up in here. All right. What are your thoughts on the future price of copper? Well, I don't know where copper is going. Now, like I heard that copper is going to pretty much run out of like available mining supply within the next 30 years, which you think that would cause copper to just go through the roof. But it doesn't seem to be like the case as far as like the paranoia or fear out there that that's what's going to happen. I mean, I don't see a lot of other people talking about this copper running out in 30 years. So leads me to believe I don't know how much legitimacy there is in that. Um, I think about like, is it at the available copper mining that is present? If there's like innovations into copper mining, if there's new supplies that are discovered somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of variables that kind of go into what will be available in the next 30 years. But if you follow copper, that's a different story because copper is a very good indicator of what's going to happen in the economy. When you have a demand for copper, you generally have a demand for building and industrial manufacturing and stuff like that. So copper is like a good indicator of where we are in the economy as far as like whether or not we're like producing and moving forward, building. If that's not happening, then you have a slowdown in the economy. That's manufacturing jobs, that's new housing, that's all kinds of stuff that's happening there that isn't happening if the price of copper goes down. So anyway, follow copper. Copper's a good indicator. It's like a lot like what watching lumber. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. I still have yet to hear anybody explain why it is that everybody used lumber as the inflation indicator when it ran up to 1,700 per thousand, talking about the hyperinflation coming from the Federal Reserve going into lumber, but yet here we are, lumber at what, 640 per thousand today? It's not the 1,700 that it was. Where did all the inflation go? I mean, did it all of a sudden just get zapped out of lumber for some particular reason? Like lumber doesn't have inflation to it anymore. I don't get it. It was the complete supply chain breakdown that did it. Thank you for answering my question. Yeah, you bet, man. No problem. I hope I got your question all right, Matthew. I mean, I wish I knew a little bit more about the Canadian market. I should call Mike Martins and talk to him for a while. That guy is like, I think he's only on, I don't know, where's he at now? Because I hear that he like pretty much gets banned off of YouTube every time he gets his channel up and moving again. Your vote don't mean a thing. Yeah. It really, sorry, I don't mean to go back into Taco Bell politics, but being from Oregon is the worst state in the world to vote for president. Because we have 3 electoral votes and we have a mail-in ballot where our vote doesn't even get counted until the very end, they have already picked the president. Like the president has already given his like, hey man, I did it kind of speech. And we still haven't got our vote in. Now, granted, I mean, it's Oregon, so it's going to be Democrat. So it's like, but still, it's like, what's the point of even voting if they've already, like, our vote hasn't even, they should wait till everybody's voted. They shouldn't, like, I don't know. I don't care about voting because of that. It's like, no matter what, no matter who I voted for, in the end, Oregon doesn't matter. It has 3 electoral votes, and we're at the very end of the line to get counted. So it's just like, it just doesn't make sense. Thank you very much. What is that? Kalne for the $10 super chat. What types of jobs do you believe will be most in demand going forward? Car repo guys? No, I don't know. Jobs in demand going forward. That's going to be a difficult one to answer. I don't know. There's probably, I would imagine that the like home care industry, like people taking care of people, because we're going to have an older population, demographics with the younger generation not quite, meeting the same population growth that from the baby boomers dying off. Like, how am I trying to explain this? As the older population is getting older and can't take care of themselves, they're going to need a younger population which has diminished to take care of them. So there's going to be a lot more jobs available to take care of old people as that generation begins to grow old and die off. So if you're looking for one that's probably going to make it through a recession, that would probably be it. They're the ones with the money and they're the ones who need help. So that would be like an I don't know, recession-proof job. I'm not sure how to quite say it. All right. Nursing will be top. Yep. Software engineer, military job, solar panel installations. Induced voltage requires a coil of wire, magnet, and relative motion. All right. Repo man, security. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, when it comes to security, that's something that I don't think a lot of people really take into consideration. Here in Portland, they were just giving the cops hell, like just giving them hell, and they were getting like no support from government. Now, I'm not trying to bash the government around here because I don't really vote for them, so I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I guess that's my fault, right? Now, I listen to a lot of people when they talk about the police, and they just hate them, like just absolutely hate them, and they want to like disband them and kick them out and do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I hope these people realize that those people, those cops, are there to help them. They are there to protect them. And they truly believe that. I know a lot of police officers, and there are some crooked cops out there. I mean, they've been busted, even busted here in my area. But that's not talking about all of them. There is bad apples in every group. Now, if you get rid of the cops and you don't have cops anymore and you have hell breaking loose like it was in Portland, and there is nobody there to protect anybody else, well, guess what? Only the rich will have security. Everybody else will have no security, and you will be in real trouble once the people start inflicting some pain upon those people who don't have security. So go ahead and get rid of the cops, and guess what happens? You're not going to be very happy with the situation that comes from that. You better be thankful that those cops show up, and I just don't get it, man. I saw that happening, and I was just like, man, these people have no clue. And again, I mean, I'm not trying to say there isn't bad apples out there. There are some bad people, but that's in every group. It doesn't matter who you look at. All right. Last recession, 2008, automotive repair industry took a hit. Oh, took a hit. Yeah. Love the King dollar. Yeah, it's happening. I mean, you know, that's the thing. Like, when I look around and I heard people giving me like economic lessons and inflation, and I'm thinking, man, you are just spitting out things that you heard on the news. You have no idea what it is that you're talking about. And I'm not talking about the people on my channel. You guys really know what you're talking about a lot more than me. I mean, it's amazing on how much I learned from you guys. But I listen to some of the people around me, and they're just repeating stuff that they've heard on the news, and I'm like, did you go and research anything that you're talking about? And they're like, I don't need to research anything. All I have to do is just open my wallet, and that's all the research I need. And it's like, oh God, you guys are killing me, All right. You make it sound personal. It is not. What about the police? What are you talking about? How are vehicle repossessions, I wonder? I think they are quite high. I hear they are. Like, I mean, I haven't seen the impact of it yet. I mean, I drive past the dealerships. They don't really seem to have a whole lot of cars in their lot. I mean, there is quite a few of them, and you're starting to see a few more balloons hanging off of a few more of them. So I guess that means that the sales are starting to happen a little less frequently, trying to get people's attention to the car lot. I heard of a lady who went and test drove a Camaro, and she wasn't happy with the initial offer and just said, nah, no thanks, it's not good enough. And she went home, and an hour later they called her up and they were like, okay, well, we'll accept your offer. So I don't know what the deal was. I just kind of heard about that in passing, but it leads me to believe that, they're starting to accept lower prices than the asking. That's a sign, it's starting to happen. I think vehicles are probably still pretty expensive considering there's not a whole lot of them on the lot yet, but we're watching it. All right. You can't have capitalism without bankruptcies. That is so true. That is so true. That's why I don't believe we live in a capitalistic society here, is because they don't allow enough bankruptcies to happen. The whole pandemic, everything that they did was completely against the whole capitalistic system. I mean, straight up, like you could not have that happen in with capitalism. Now, I don't, I, I know people are going to get upset with that and say like, well, you just wanted everybody to die. That's not the way it works, right? Capitalism says you rise and you fall on your own merits. If you are not prepared to deal with the downturn, with a serious consequence to the economy, if you are not prepared for that, if you have not saved, if you do not stack gold and silver, if you haven't even gotten into Bitcoin, I mean, not saying that Bitcoin is the place you ought to be, but it's at least something, right? It's better than nothing. So if you haven't thought of these things and prepared for it, then yeah, you don't live in a capitalistic society because you don't need to, because they're just going to come and bail you out. I think about like what they're doing right now with the new wave of COVID, and I think, oh God, here we go. So instead of having a bunch of unemployed people running around getting pissed off at the government because they're unemployed, they're just going to go ahead and just lock everybody down again and just start handing out stimulus to say, no, no, there's no unemployment. You all can't go to work. Here you go. Here's your check. I mean, is that going to happen again? I have a feeling it might. I mean, they locked China down twice, so why not? Why not do it to the rest of the world? I mean, if it does, then all bets be off. I mean, you got to change the entire outlook of everything. But if we go into recession and they allow layoffs to really kind of kick into gear and let people like lose their jobs and begin to lose their stuff and businesses go under and banks start to fail, well, then I might say, dang, man, capitalism is starting to clean up the mess. Interesting. Very good. Hey, there's another super chat. Thank you so much, Kimo Zabi, for the $10. When you get a chance, look for email I sent furthering the conversation you started a few days ago. Okay. Maybe send it another one. I have received so many emails in the last like I don't even know how many, and I'm trying to respond to them. Please, if you sent me an email and I didn't respond to it and you think I should have, try sending it to me again. Like I've gotten overwhelmed with emails, and I try to respond to everybody, and sometimes I just can't. I mean, I'm the only guy, right? I don't have a team following all the messages. So between Instagram and Facebook and I'm sorry, I'm not even on Twitter. Like I don't go to Twitter anymore because it's just too much. It's just like I can't do it all. It would be cool to have a team of people who could answer questions and stuff, or at least bring the important questions to me. And occasionally I do have somebody kind of helping me out with some of that stuff, but everybody has lives, and I can pay somebody to do it, which I have. I mean, I do have an assistant that helps me out with a lot of stuff. But it's more of like the behind the scenes, getting things like, doing like the business cards and making sure like the Teespring stuff is up, and, kind of the merchandise, like stuff like that. Things that I just don't have time for. And, they also kind of help me, she also helps me like like she doesn't go through the questions and stuff, but to try and help me out with like the website and making sure like the emails from that are forwarded to me. So stuff like that, I do have a bit of an assistant with, but not full on like trying to keep an eye on all the social medias out there. It's tough. Like it's hard enough just to keep on with the comments here on YouTube and the emails. So like after that, it's like trying to put Instagram in there too. It's like, oh my goodness. But I am answering a lot more on Instagram. So if you do happen to message me there, then I probably will catch it. Thank you very much, Newfoundland Naturals, for the 10 Canadian dollars. All right. Found the channel from Owen Benjamin. Man, I still haven't talked to Owen yet, and I keep saying that I need to. I'll make it happen. I keep saying it. I need to take notes right here. I need to have a note of things to do, Have you looked into Algorand's connection to the World Economic Forum and being ISO 2022 compliant and shaping to be the CBDC standard? Yeah. I'm still up in the air on it. Like, I don't know what is going to come from it. Go and take a look at the description. There's a speech that Brainerd, I think Brainerd gave the other day, talking about the central bank digital currencies, almost as if they were laughing. Like, I wouldn't say that they're laughing. Like, the feeling that I got from reading the speech was like, ha ha, those like stable coins aren't so stable anymore, are they? Now, I'm not going to get into like the ins and outs of what they're planning on doing, but if you go and read that speech, they are talking about getting all the central banks like on board. Like, let's do this right. Let's make sure that we can integrate these things, that we have no like issues as far as transferring funds from you to me, from this coin to that coin. They're working on this thing. Like, it's happening. And if you read that Federal Reserve speech, I mean, it is very telling that they are like definitely working on it. The next major crisis we have, and like, I don't want to get into it too deep because I don't know anything about like shutting down the grid, but I am hearing that they're going to shut down the grid, right? So that's, again, that's like conspiracy theory stuff that I don't really have anything to like back it up with, so I'm not like saying that's what's going to happen. But if a crisis comes, no matter what it is, if it is like shutting down a grid or shutting off a food supply or shutting off a banking or the whatever, I have a feeling if it's major, it's going to have the birth of central bank digital currencies come from that. That will happen. Like, they will be, oh, there's this major crisis and we got the solution. Just download this app or take this card and this is the way that you're going to be making payments from now on. I mean, all the signs are there. All the talk is there. And you have to think about it. It's almost like the laws of attraction. If you put it in people's heads and this is what they think about and they expect it to come, then subconsciously they'll just make it happen. And I think central bank digital currencies are very much on their way. So, thank you, Slice of Crypto, for the $9.99. I'm curious on your thoughts. I have heard that people in Congress are proposing a stimulus to fix the supply chain breakdown and are blaming inflation on supply chain. Inflation to fix inflation to fix inflation. How do you fix a supply chain issue with, I mean, unless you're like, giving out like free money to people who drive trucks and go to work and stock shelves and, I don't know, do stuff like that. Like, if you gave them free money to go to work, then you could fix the supply chain issue, right? I mean, they have to go to work. That's it. That's all there is to it. They have to, and the way you make people go to work is you have to starve them. I hate to say it, but you have to go hungry. If you're hungry or you're afraid that you're going to lose everything you own, then you'll go to work. I mean, that's all there is to it. I don't care what people say about, like, I would work for this guy if he wasn't such an asshole. You will work for anybody if you're hungry, and that's what it's going to take. People losing everything they have, being strung out on debt. That's the stuff that's going to fix the economy. Only figuring how to claw back all the Bitcoin they can before rollout. Yeah, they ain't getting mine. Well, they might. I don't know. I mean, they might get it, but I doubt they're gonna get mine. I'm not like willing to sell it. I just want to sit on it forever and just keep adding to it. And you think about it, there's only going to be 21 million of them, and how many have been lost? I mean, that's 21 million over the life of like the mining of Bitcoin, which ends like what, 100 years or something. So I mean, to even have like even a half a Bitcoin or a third of a Bitcoin or quarter Bitcoin, I mean, that's going to be pretty unique if everybody in the world starts getting their hands on Bitcoin. There is, I mean, a couple of videos back, I posted a link to, and I'll go find it and put it in this one if we need to, talking about the Bureau of International Settlements now allowing banks to hold 1% reserves in Bitcoin. I mean, it's pretty significant if you ask me. That's a wedge, and you just need to start tapping it. Maybe next year it'll be 2%. Maybe after that it'll be 10. Who knows? What's up, Simon? I don't know. I'm out here just hanging out talking with you guys. I just love to do this. Maybe they should relax regulations to help supply chain. Yeah, you think? I mean, free market, come in, fix the problem. Really? I mean, is that going to be allowed? I would love to see it. All right. I feel like work too much as is. Yeah. You know, I work constantly. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel like work because, like this doesn't feel like work to me. A lot of people say, hey, I love your work. I love what you do. Okay, so if this is work, I do this all the time. From the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. I work all the time. There is never a time that I'm not thinking about like the next video or something I read or something going on. I am obsessed with it. And so my obsession is my job here. I also think I have a day job. And then I call bingo. I hardly sleep. Like, I go to bed at 10 o'clock, I wake up at 4 at the latest. So if I get 6 hours of sleep, it's like a really good night for me. I don't sleep. Right? I am constantly working. And what I found is that everything that I have read about people who are incredibly successful, which I don't consider myself incredibly successful, I would love to be someday. I'm working towards it. But from what I understand, that people who are very successful, they don't sleep either, and they're obsessed. These high performance people are generally so driven that everything else kind of just fades away, and it sucks because like the family ends up suffering for that, right? I mean, that's where like the problem really ends up being for a lot of these people, is that they focus so in on trying to be successful at what they're doing so that they can provide for their family, that they forget to be with their family. And then next thing you know, they don't have anything, right? Because everything they worked for, they don't care about them anymore, right? They're like, you had your chance, you messed that up. So be careful if you're going to do that. Like, that's one of the struggles that I have. But I don't sleep, I work constantly. That's what I do. I mean, my brain does work through scenarios during sleep and how to make money. Yeah, I mean, if that's what you're thinking about when you go to bed and that's what you're thinking about when you wake up, I guarantee you at some point you're going to start businesses. You're going to start pursuing money. You're going to start finding a way that you're going to get that steady flow of passive income, if that's what that's what's motivating you. I mean, when I got the first dollar on a video, I was just like, holy moly, I made $1. I made $1 on a video. And then when it got to 10, like I made $10 on a video, I was like, this, you got to think, man, I didn't have any money at the time, right? I was broke. I was walking to work and stuff. And I'm like, holy moly, I made $10 on a video. And I didn't hardly have to do anything. I just went out and made the video and I posted it and I made $10. If I do that every single day, I can make like $300. That would be like a car. I could get like a car or something. That would be so cool. And then $10 turned to 20, and then 50, and pretty soon it's starting to make a lot more. And then you have a video that gets 300,000 views, and it just blows your mind on how much I made on a video. And I went, wow, I'm glad I dedicated myself to this channel. It took forever to get there, and I did it as if I was making money with it anyway, and I never changed anything about what I was doing. So find something in your life. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If you can make $1 at it, that's awesome. Make 2, make 4, make 8. I guarantee you before long you'll be making money. And it's just, if you put it in your head and you commit yourself to it, to say, I'm going to do this, and there's no other choice. There's like, failure is not an option. It's just going to happen. It'll happen. Somebody had mentioned in the comments, they were like, so what are you saying? If I just imagine myself as a millionaire, someday I'll be a millionaire? Yes, that is exactly the way you start. You imagine yourself as a millionaire, and then you start pursuing a worthy goal, and you will become a millionaire. All right. Kimosabi, thank you for the $5. I figured you receive a bunch of emails and they get buried. It isn't a must respond, but it is a unique idea in what is going on with the dollar. Yeah, please send me an email. I mean, I will try. I mean, I do my best, guys. I really do, and I try to respond. So, I mean, if you want to send me an email, please do so. I mean, I read all of them, unless it's like, the only thing that I don't really go through and read is like stuff that's like spam type of stuff. Or I mean, I hate to say it because like I'm not trying to like cut myself off from sponsorships and stuff, but a lot of times if it's like somebody who wants me to sponsor, some video game or something like that, that I really don't play video games. I don't know anything about video games, and I don't think you guys really care about video games. I don't know if I'm really going to take a sponsorship for a video game. And so I don't really read those emails. I mean, if you guys want to keep sending them to me, that's fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with you guys sending me offers for sponsorship. I do look at them to see what they're about, but for the most part, I already kind of struggle with the idea of doing a sponsorship, and I'm like going through with this one. Hopefully, still kind of in the works of like this current one that I'm trying to do. But other than that, I read all the emails. Like I will read them all. Responding, not so well. I do my best. All right, dude. Most people where I live make $30,000 to $50,000 where I'm at. Yeah, well, that's what this place used to look like. I don't know what the average pay in Astoria is anymore, but it seems like there is a lot nicer cars driving around. I mean, I think I drive like the ugliest car in Astoria, besides like what maybe some of the people without houses drive. All right, I wish more creators were more picky with their sponsors. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't start this channel to make money. I mean, I started this channel to learn, and I figured that if I was honest with everything that I do, and I stick to what I was intending for this channel, which is to learn and help people around me figure things out as well. I just figured I'll be rewarded for that. In the early days, I used to get a lot of tips on PayPal, and I'm not saying that go tip me on PayPal, but that was like, that support is really what drove me. It was just like, I mean, the fact that you took the time to even send me a single dollar would just blow me away. And I'm like, man, this is it. These people really enjoy this channel. That's the gold. I mean, the comment section proves it, that you guys are, into this kind of stuff. Let's talk about economics. My channel is about doing it yourself and being sustainable. We're going to need skills to see this through. Absolutely. If you don't have the skills, you have to have the network. You're stuck at 100K subs. What's good? No, I'm not. I'm about ready to cross another 1,000 here. I mean, everybody ran to the channel right there at the 4th of July because I kind of gave that, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I crossed 100,000 on the 4th of July? So I got a lot of people who sub to it, but I don't ask for subscriptions ever. Like, that was the only time that I had ever really asked for subscriptions on this channel. So if I'm like, if the viewers are mainly subscribers, they're like, how do you get more subscribers unless the video gets shared? So that's where the thumbs up on this type of streaming gets the algorithm to start spreading that video out there to get more people into the stream. Then people will start to, be new to the channel and say, hey, maybe I will give this guy a subscription. But I don't, like, if in my regular videos, you never hear me ask for them. Like, I don't say, hey, like and subscribe this like everybody else does. I figured that if you truly enjoyed the channel and it was worth it, then you would subscribe. And if you like the video, then you would like it. And that tells me that it's like legitimate. Like, it's okay, you did a good job on this particular video because you had more views than you would normally get. But if you ask for them, how do you know if that's a good video or not? So I kind of stick to my game plan with that. If I don't get subscribers for a few weeks, that's cool. I don't need to get, a run of subscribers. I can be happy with what I have, and I am. I mean, you guys are enough for me. I don't need any more, but as the channel grows, we'll get more people in. All right, hit the like button. Jesus, hell, most cops hate unions. Even union contractors hate them. I think they don't like the situation. Right? Cops don't want to do it. Union wants their way. I mean, so when you have those lines, when you have that happening, I don't think either one of them are very happy with the situation. And as far as hate, I mean, yeah, the people hate the government for what's happening. They hate the authority. They hate that part of things, but they don't hate the individual. The individual on the other end is a man or a woman with a family, kids, plans, and hopes and dreams, and just like everybody else, it's their job, right? Now, you could say, well, they don't have to do their job. You're right, they don't. But they're there typically to protect people. They're there to try and protect and serve. I mean, that was the goal. Like, they didn't go there to be like some like warrior is going to go and smash heads. That was never their intent. I know it wasn't, right? I mean, it might have been for a couple of them, but for the most part, that is not what they were intended for. Like, that's not why they do it. I mean, I know a lot of police officers. Most of them that I know are really good people who really do feel like their job is important for protecting and serving. All right. Keep Bitcoin and Ethereum. Fed coin will come next. March, no USD. Why in March? Let's see. That's the reason I started watching you. The algorithm put you on my feed. You were very smart with the state of the economy, and I wanted to know more of what's going on. Comments helped a lot too. Yeah, see, like, that's what I love about the comments section. See, there's some things I just can't say on YouTube without getting banned, right? I mean, just ask Mike Martins. He wanted to say whatever he wanted, and they cut him off, right? And they do it to a lot of other guys. And I give Mike Martins a big props. He was the one, like, I have to say, if it wasn't for Mike, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the channel probably would have caught on, but he was the first one to really give me the shout outs, to say, man, come on my show. I want to talk to the Uneducated Economist. I want to know what's going on in the economy. And I was so nervous doing that interview. Like, I couldn't believe that another YouTuber out there was asking me to be on his show. And at the time, he had like 9,000 subscribers or something. And I'm like, oh man, this guy is big too. Like, compared to me, I had a few, like maybe I don't even know if I had 1,000 subscribers at the time. And he brought me on that show, and after that, it just built my confidence up. I was just like, holy moly, man, that was so much fun. I can't believe that somebody actually brought me on for my opinion, and I got all these subscribers from it, and it's like that's where I got a lot of you guys was from Mike Martins in the early days. And so I have to really thank him for that. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't know where the channel or how long it would have taken for the channel to take off. So, all right. I thought economists were code for pimp. I haven't thought of that one yet. I mean, I guess I had thought of it, but anyway. Still working in the lumber industry? Yep, I do. Congrats on 100K. Well deserved, brother. Well, thank you very much, John. I very much appreciate that. JP Morgan has a reserve of 1 billion as a reserve. That's a lot. Are you sure it's that much? I think it might be a little bit more. All right, started watching Mike not long ago. Very smart too. Yeah, he is. I haven't watched Mike. I haven't talked to Mike in, geez, it's been a while. I bet probably a year and a half. Jesus, has it been that long? Man, I need to give him a call. I need to talk to Mike again. I like how you finally fixed your headliner. Nice job with the spray adhesive. I did. It's just really hot out right now, and it stretches the liner. I can't really fix this thing. If you saw the back of it, it's actually torn pretty much all the way to like right about here. So there is no fixing. I mean, I guess I could fix this part of things and it would look a little bit better. But the whole headliner really should just come down. The only reason why I don't is because the styrofoam, like the insulation that's up there, it rains down. Like, it kind of sucks for the people in the back seat whenever they ride. But that's the only reason why I haven't torn it off yet. And I don't fix it because there's no real point to it. No return on investment, right? All right. What's your 12-month goals if you can share it? Okay. So one of my goals is to start that. I mean, I've started it. I've written down some stuff, but I would really like to get a book written. And if I could do that in a year, that would be really good. So I guess like my goal for the next 12 months would be to have a book written And I would really love to do speaking engagements. Like, I think that would be like a lot of fun to do, is to travel around to different areas and do some speaking engagements. So if there was two like goals that I would like to do, I guess that would be it. Like to write a book and then go on like a tour and sell that book, I guess, you know. Then I would have something to really sell, like other than a hoodie. So that would be like my goal, to try and do something like that. And I guess it would be fun to do like a really good presentation that I could just basically just do over and over again, maybe change it around a little bit if it suits the needs from the economy. But I would like to have, like, you know, a presentation that I could take on the road, and that would be a lot of fun to do. You know, maybe even do like a little bit of stand up or something inside of it, stand up comedy stuff. All right. Phil Mc, Philmington? Is that what that says? Philmington? What does that say? Great stuff. Thank you for the $10, by the way. Great stuff, man. I owe you a ton. A context mix of 70% UE, 10% Josh Brown, 10% Ninja, and 10% Manarino keeps me ahead of this market. Your track record has been best of all, especially lately. Too easy. Well, thank you so much, man. You know, it's easy to like kind of call this stuff out for me. Like, I realized as the more I started studying the economy, is because I'm not taking like opinions from other people. I'm forming my own opinion from the things that I read, like mainly coming from the Federal Reserve itself. So if you read enough of these speeches and you listen to enough of the Federal Reserve, which most people don't really dive deep enough into the Fed to really get a good understanding, once you understand that stuff, then you really, you know, then you can really start like kind of predicting some of the things that are going to happen in the economy, because, well, you just kind of learn this stuff. You know, I don't know if I left a link in the description of this, but I meant to if I didn't. There's a video that I did, Things Are Changing, and it was probably, I don't know, 3 years ago or so. I was reporting on how they were going to set up the standing repo facility, but I didn't know it at the time. Like, they were just talking about the repo facility and how they were going to use this repo facility. It was during quantitative tightening, like before the whole quantitative easing and stimulus. It was before that, when they were still trying to tighten the economy up. And they were using the standing repo facility. Well, it wasn't standing at the time, it was just the repo facility, and they were talking about it and how they were going to use this to basically establish the floor on interest rates, or actually just the channel for interest rates to be in, because the Fed funds rate has moved from like overnight lending over to interest on excess reserves and the repo facility. This is where like the Federal Reserve now conducts their interest rate policies. So I was reporting on that long before anybody else was talking about the repo facility or anything going on with it. I just didn't know that it was going to be that important. And, you know, that video only got like 3,000 views. There's hardly anybody who even watched it. So if you go back into my channel and just, you know, search for, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Things Are Changing. I think that if you use that, then you would probably find it. But anyway, you know, that's the way I'm able to do a lot of this stuff. And then being in an industry like lumber, I was reporting on all these things that was going to cause lumber to rise, and then everybody started blaming monetary policy on it, and I'm like, I no, like, I am not going to fall for this. I am not going to fall for monetary policy causing lumber prices to go up. It's not the case. And when you are just so adamant about it because you know it, I mean, I just knew it, then I started finding other things that were going on in the economy that was very similar to it. And I'm like, no, this is not what everybody is saying it is. Now you think about it, the narrative, whatever anybody is saying out there, like if everybody is talking about a particular narrative, like inflation is killing everybody, that is fed to you. It is fed in. Now, I'm not saying like you're wrong. Like, I mean, I could be very wrong about everything that I'm saying too. But when I hear everybody else talking about it, I'm like, you have no, like, these people are talking about it, they have no clue about the economy, but yet they're talking about how inflation is going to kill me, right? And I'm thinking, no, you got it wrong. You might be right on the inflation because I'm wrong, but you're wrong on inflation for the reason that it's happening, because I saw it happening in lumber, and I realized right then that monetary policy had nothing to do with it, even though everybody wanted to believe it. Moving on. Thank you guys for hanging out. 500 of you. You're so awesome. All right. Two folks. Let's see. To the folks mentioning JP Morgan, anything realize that the bank has so much sway that they can literally speak a recession into existence. Going back through the creature from Jekyll Island helps. Yes, it does. That's another thing. Like, people ask me, how is it that I was able to grasp all this knowledge? Well, I don't even know what I know anymore. I hate to say it. I told it to my wife the other day. I was like, I'm getting to the point where I feel like a lot of people should have this as common knowledge because I talk about it so much. But then I realized, like, a lot of people have no idea what the Fed funds rate is, or what the balance sheet is, whether it's the Federal Reserve or the Treasury, and they think like the Federal Reserve is the Treasury, and there's like all this confusion out there. And I forget that people don't quite understand it to the level that I do, and I don't expect people to like understand it to the level I do, but sometimes I do expect people to understand what like the Federal Reserve balance sheet is, or what mortgage-backed securities are, or what the U.S. Treasury is. And a lot of people just don't have any clue of any of that stuff. But The Creature from Jekyll Island, that was it. That book, after it took me a while to get through it, but after I read that book, it made like following the economy so much easier. Like, all of a sudden, then when I started watching the news, like, it was a lot clearer to me. And that's when I started realizing, these people who talk on the news, you get some fancy dude up there who works for some hedge fund or some investment corporation or something like that, and they're babbling on, and the things that they are saying to the layman is going to be so confusing, and they're not really saying much. Like, they're just using fancy words to basically saying they believe that interest rates are going to continue to go up. I mean, that's like literally all they're saying, and they could have had the whole conversation and used just that phrase and been done with it. But they really want to sound smart, and so they babble on for 5 minutes that nobody understands, and they just keep saying the same thing over and over again. All right. My brother took an Eddie for the first time, and his tripping hilarious right now. He's such a nerd. Hyper leveraged assets are a real thing nowadays. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Dumb Money Media, $5. Thank you so much. Hey, hope you had fun at the last event. Man, I am working a few videos right now, but I'm gonna wait to post until I have better workflow. Haha. Well, I mean, it's not a matter necessarily of, I mean, it is practice, right? You want to practice and get good at it. But when I started making videos, I just went for it. Like, I mean, I'm out here on the river on a park bench talking about, some cryptocurrency that I read. Once you start flowing into it, once you start doing it more and more, then it makes it a lot easier to start making videos. So really, it's a matter of just getting out there and doing it. All right. Daniel, let's see here. The problem in our economy is the baby boomers' retirement, leaving the workforce. Our U.S. workforce is 150 million, and 7 million baby boomers are done leaving in record numbers. Yeah, and that's going to continue to happen. I mean, a lot of people like to talk about manufacturing jobs coming back to the United States. For who to work? I mean, like, you can bring them back here. It doesn't mean you're going to find a bunch of people to work those things. It kind of lets me think about, like, the immigration problem that we used to have that nobody seems to talk about anymore, right? There was a time when, like, I had buddies who were going to take guns to the border because there was a crisis situation, a national security. And, like, I haven't heard anything about that in a very long time. And so I almost wonder, like, I mean, not to be like conspiratorial or anything like that, but did the mass immigration coming into the country keep the inflation from running rampant? Like, we had quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4. There was a lot of people complaining about immigration at the time, and we never had inflation come from that because of the low wage earners. I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe that's thinking out loud. I shouldn't do that. All right. Immigration takes lots of the blue collar jobs. All right. With the downturn in the economy, for some strange reason, the homeless population have dropped in my town. Why is this happening? I thought homelessness increases with the downturn. I kind of noticed that there was a few less homeless in my area too, although right now my back behind my store right now is starting to load up with a bunch of people. I mean, I'm watching some girl right now throwing garbage into the blackberries. Yeah, I would yell at her, but she's really mean. She'll come over and just start cussing and just hitting the car and stuff, so I don't make eye contact with her. You know. All right. Sure, there's CapEx up front, but then you recoup when you scale up. You guys must be talking about something. Stagflation, the Fed is done. No, I don't know. I don't think the Fed is done. I mean, I don't care if the Fed is done. I mean, they go ahead, let them be done, but I don't think they're done. I think that they are very much like doing exactly what they want to do, and they're going to get away with it too because they're going to, I mean, whether they, whether they a friend of mine. Anyway, I don't think the Fed is done. Whether we go into a crisis situation or not, I think the backup plan is already written. Like they already have a plan. It's like, they got the playbook. They got it sitting right there. And they're like, okay, when this event comes, just open up that playbook and start playing. Because that's really how I feel it's going to go down. There is no way that the special purpose vehicles and the stimulus packages and everything that they were going to do was like invented on the spot. No way. They had that game plan, that strategy already set, right? They had that all ready to go. And you know, just even like, the unusual and exigent circumstances. Like if we ever come into a situation in which this happens, it'll be an unusual and exigent circumstance, and that will give us the ability to have all these different things that we can use, all these tools that nobody knows about, because right now you can't use them because they're illegal. But if you have an exigent circumstance, we got all these tools that we can use. Nobody knows about those things, right? I mean, maybe somebody does, but I don't. I couldn't find them. I didn't know about special purpose vehicles being the 12 special purpose vehicles to set up, a backstop to corner for every bit of the financial market. I mean, it didn't matter if it was a car loan, house loan, any loan, all loans, corporate loans. Everything had a financial institute or a special purpose vehicle set up to deal with that. And that is not something that is usual. All right. Hey, thank you very much, Matthew, for the other $20. With PPI now hitting 11, oh man, 11%. How many months do you think it'll take for the CPI to get over 10%, or will it? I don't know. Like, it's gonna be hard to say. Like, if all this stuff, all the stocked up inventory, if all these ships and containers and all that stuff, if that was flowing through, we wouldn't have these numbers like they are. So it's hard to predict what those numbers are gonna be. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't really think it was gonna get as high as it has. But here we are. So it's just like, how do you predict like what's gonna come into the future? The only thing I can say is like, I don't know how far it's going to go, but I know what's going to cause it to be relieved. It's going to be the flow of material going back through. If you start causing like restrictions again, you get people to, you got mandates and mass mandates and limited seatings and people staying home and all that other stuff, then yeah, you're going to start seeing a whole different type of environment. That's going to be very different from what we are experiencing today. But if things start to free up, if government gets out of the way, then we'll have, an entirely different change from that. You would definitely start seeing prices coming down. But as of right now, you don't have it because we just don't have that environment that gets people out there working and putting that stuff on the shelf and doing all the things that would typically get the flow of material and jobs and all that other stuff to happen. So again, I don't know if there's really like any way of predicting what is going to happen coming into the future. I really am more nervous about after like things chill out, because you're going to have a lot of inventory here and there's not going to be a lot of orders for manufacturing, and manufacturing is the production, that's the jobs. And that's really where I feel that there's going to be the major crisis. Like right now we went through a bunch of crap. People, got, it was painful for a lot of people, but I don't think like they really expect what is going to come, and the real pain is going to come after the supply has diminished and there's no manufactured goods coming in to back that up. And that's really what's happening right now. I mean, why would you order more TVs if you already have a flood of TVs? So the people who make TVs, where are the orders coming from? I mean, is the rest of the world in demand of TVs when they're going into sovereign debt and corporate debt crisis? I doubt it. So at some point, we're going to have a huge manufacturing slowdown, and all this stuff that we have that's overflowing everybody, that's going to fade away, and there's not going to be a lot coming back in. And that right there is probably where the real crisis is going to kick in. Thank you for the $20, Matthew. You're the man. And if you guys haven't gone over and checked out Lumberjack Landlord, dude has some great information. I watched a couple of his videos. He's doing a wonderful job. Like you guys know, I haven't really followed a whole lot of YouTubers out there, but he's doing an awesome job, and he's just such a cool guy. We've been emailing back and forth to each other for a while, and I really encourage everybody to go check out his channel. Go give him a subscription to him. Hey, right on. Thank you very much, Dumb Money Media, for the $5. I'll show you an unlisted vid I have made so far for the new series. Would love your feedback and comment. Well, yes, send me the link to the unlisted video. I will take a look at it, and I will give you my honest feedback on it. Yeah, no problem, Lumberjack Landlord. He says appreciate it. Yeah, you're welcome, brother. I mean, it's you meet a lot of people out there, and you want to surround yourself with successful people, and you want to listen to the people who are successful. And when you have somebody come to you and say, hey, I like what you do, this is what I've got going on, and when you see the success in it, and you want to be part of that, like, you want to take in some of that. That's networking. That's like that's the positive energy and flow that you're looking for. And that's why I love this channel. It's like why I loved going to the Rebel Capitalist live event. I met so many awesome people there, and there's a lot of people who are like encouraging me to like progress. Like, here, man, you got all these other options you could be moving towards. Why don't you do it? And I like a lot of it for me is like I don't even know what to do. Like I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know that was a possibility. And they're like, how could you not see this? And I'm like, I'm just making my videos, man. I don't know. All right. I thought steel was from iron. Isn't it? Isn't it from like iron ore eventually makes steel? Pig iron is used to make steel. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, Crazy Wayne. I had a friend who ordered $300,000 in nickels. Oh, God. Well, if you don't know, if you're not aware of nickels are what they say they are. A penny's like a copper penny prior to 1982. So like some of the 1982 pennies are zinc, some of them are copper. So anything prior to 1982, 81 and earlier, those are copper pennies, and they're worth way more than face value. Nickels are about face value. They kind of fluctuate a little above, a little below at times. Excuse me, but for the most part, they are what they say they are. And if you took all your money, every bit of it, and you put it into nickels, like the 5-cent piece, the US 5-cent nickel, you would have 100% protection of your wealth. There is no way that you could possibly lose anything, right? Because if the nickel goes up in value, then the value of the metal is more than the face value. You can earn money by melting it down. I'm not saying that you can legally melt nickels down, but it doesn't matter. The value of the metal itself exceeds the face value. And if you're completely like crazy lunatic and everything that I say is wrong and nickel will drop out and be worthless, like let's just say that it doesn't have any value to it, you lose nothing because then you can spend the nickels at face value. So there is no way you could possibly lose wealth if you put everything into nickels. I mean, it's crazy to think, but that's the truth. Hey, thank you very much, Miles, for the $10. People don't talk inflation into reality. The talk is a result of inflation that exasperates the problem. Regardless of what people do or don't say, the increase in dollars happened. Go and read the speeches from the Federal Reserve. They can care less about inflation. All they cared about was inflation expectations. That is it. Inflation expectation is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe it will come, you will do things in your life that will make it happen. You will buy more stuff, you will be allocated against, and so especially with shortages, you will feel the pain of inflation and then begin to do things that will cause inflation to happen. It's same thing with the recession, right? It's the same thing. Like if people feel that there's going to be a recession coming, they're going to start selling all their stuff off. They're going to get out of the stock market. They're going to start, trying to unload their house. They're going to not buy cars. They're not going to, go on vacation. They're going to do all the things that would start causing a recession to happen. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. All the money printing, a lot of that ends up as reserves on the bank's balance sheet. It never even enters into circulation. And now you have to think, if that money does go into circulation, how does it happen? It happens over the course of a loan. So loaned money goes into circulation, it is due back plus interest rate, right? Plus the interest that's attached to it. It doesn't matter if it's a stimulus, right? Stimulus is borrowed money. It came from the government. And if that money doesn't go into production, it's going into consuming. And if it goes into consuming, at some point you're going to have to postpone the current spending to pay for the past consumption. When that time comes, that's the recession that's going to be kicking in. So you can print up a lot of money and then you can put out the narrative, hey, there's a lot of inflation coming, you better do something about it, and then cause that inflation to actually occur, especially if you time it up with the supply chain breakdown. Then you don't say anything about the supply chain breakdown. You just talk about the Federal Reserve and their money printing and quantitative easing and just put out the information that it's going to happen, and then it'll happen. But yet we see from the bullwhip effect that inflation was not what everybody thought it was. The supply chain breakdown had a lot more to do with the increase in prices than the monetary policies coming from the Federal Reserve. I mean, if you want to be stuck on the monetary policies coming from the Federal Reserve, that's fine. I mean, just go ahead, but then you're missing out on the bullwhip effect, which is obviously taking place. So, I don't care which way you look at it. I mean, it's in price inflation is price inflation. At the end of the day, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's messing with your pocketbook. It doesn't really matter how it came. But to me, I want to know exactly why it came. And when I see it happening in lumber, I'm thinking, okay, I mean, everybody else can say that it's a money printer. I'm saying it's a supply chain breakdown. And I was right when it came to lumber. I mean, not trying to brag or have an ego about it, but, when you say it every single day, and you're right in the end, at the end of it, then, that's, what do you say about that? I mean, it's just the case. All right. Thank you, guys. Did I miss any super chats? Did I miss one up there? I'm sorry if I did. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss them. This comments come by so fast. Okay. Let's see here. Taco Bell profits. A while back, zinc pennies were worth over a penny cent too. Yeah. I don't tell people this a lot, but I save every coin. Like, I do not get rid of coins. Occasionally, I will spend quarters, but that's it. Like, I save all my nickels, all my dimes, all my pennies, and when I'm at work and looking through the till, if I can see the copper pennies, because I can tell the difference between a copper penny and a zinc penny right away, I will fish all the copper ones out and replace them with the zinc pennies and take the copper ones home. I do that every day, and even if it's just 4 pennies that I get in a day, I do it every single day. I pull those copper pennies. All right. You don't want to eat Costco chicken. I've eaten it. It's all right. I have to think. Like, I don't know, how much is a Costco chicken now? It used to be like $5, and I used to raise birds. Like, I raised meat birds, chickens, and a lot of people are like, all these hormone and like genetically modified birds. No, that's not the case at all. They don't do that. The birds that you eat are a hybrid chicken that is not genetically modified. Okay, they developed this bird way back, like during the Depression. Okay, they needed a fast-growing bird to deal with the fact that most of the meat supply was going to the war efforts. Right, that's where the whole idea of hybrid, like it was started at like where did it actually come from? The World's Fair. That's what it was. It was the World's Fair that wanted to present a perfect bird, right? So they had this like idea of what it was that they wanted, and so they had like a model of it, and then they told all the bird breeders out in the world, they said, hey, this is the model that we want, and we want it in like a record time, as fast as you can grow this thing. And so the people who breed birds, they started going to it and started making it. Well, it's found that they used a Cornish cross rock, right? So the Cornish breed and a rock chicken, which is another type of breed like the barred rock, they combined these breeds and they messed with them so much until they were able to come up with a super fast growing bird with these huge, like, meat boned, like legs, breast, everything about it was like a meat bird, and they grew very fast. So now you can order these birds. There's breeders out there who have them. They're called the Cornish cross rock. You order them, they show up in the mail. You can get them like in batches of 25. Learn to raise them. You can have meat birds inside of 8 weeks, right? And at 6 weeks, you can butcher them. You can have a little bird, but after 8 weeks, they're pretty much full grown, and you can have anywhere from a 5 to 8 pound bird, and they are super easy to raise. So I think about that. I used to raise birds. I would buy them, feed them, process them, and I think about how much work and time and effort and money went into that. And here you can go to Costco and get that bird cooked for $5. And I thought, man, that does not leave a whole lot of room for profit. So how do you profit off of this other than diminishing the feed, the way you raise it, the way you handle it, the way you cook, all the stuff that goes into it has to be at the lowest bottom, like most efficient way you can do it. And there's probably not a lot of quality that's going into that as well. So from somebody who's raised birds in the past, I wouldn't trust anything that's cheap like that. That's not good. That's not a good sign. All right. Show me how to prep for that. What are you talking about? Birds? Birds are easy. Birds are super easy. Get 5. Okay, here's an idea. You can raise 5 meat birds in a very small area. You need like maybe 5 square feet per bird, right? So say a 4x5 area. It's going to be very cramped for them. It's not going to be the best. If you take care of their area, like, put down like straw and stuff for them to run around on, it won't mess their feet up too much. It won't get too ugly and bad in there. But you can raise 5 birds in a very small area in 8 weeks. You get 5 friends to do the exact same thing, and you start raising birds once a month. You order a patch of 25. And what you'll have is at 4 weeks, you'll have these little birds, right? So you'll have to have like a brooder. Then you take them from the brooder after you butcher the ones that are in the cage, and then you move them into the cage. And you order another batch of 25 and split them with your friends. And you just do this every month. And you'll always have, once a week, you can have a bird. You can have a chicken to eat. And that's pretty easy to do. Like, doesn't take much. Butchering a bird is super easy. Like, I've done thousands of chickens. In fact, Everyday Napa is a channel that I had, my like farming channel that I had back in the day. And I got a video on there on how to eviscerate a bird. And like, when you get good at it, I mean, shoot, you can have a bird plucked and cleaned in like, I don't know, 3 minutes. Like, I mean, it doesn't take very long at all, especially if you have a chicken plucker. I mean, they're kind of funny to watch if you haven't seen what a chicken plucker looks like. Just Google that, and there's some pretty good ones out there. But processing birds is easy. It's nothing to it. This dude, there's nothing that will take its place. It's the dollar. Yeah, that's true. A lot of people are like, well, look about India and look about like China and look about Russia. They're not using the dollar for anything. Yeah. If I had like a hard time getting dollars, I would I would be using something else too. Like, you think about it. Right now, there's sovereign debt crisis taking place all over the world because they can't get a hold of the dollars to pay their debts. Well, if you have an issue getting dollars and you need energy, you'll play with anything else that you can get. And Russia is just like, man, screw that dollar. They keep hitting us with these sanctions. They don't let us process the dollar, as far as like using the SWIFT system and stuff like that. Then yeah, you're going to have to buy it with rubles because we don't really have much other choice. And people who are in need of energy are like, whatever, man, I'll do it. They're going to be sad that they did. If they start doing deals in dollars, they're going to run out of the ability to get dollars, and then they won't be able to function on the world scale either if they don't have enough dollars on hand. You hear about them dumping treasuries. You hear about nations dumping treasuries. That's them trying to get into the dollar. That they're trying to get dollars. That's why they gotten rid of their treasuries, because there's no faster way to get dollars than to unload your treasuries. It's the most liquid asset out there. Here's something that no one's thinking about. Are earplugs if you're sleeping under a tarp or a tent, raindrops, lots of noise outside? I don't know. It's funny, there was a homeless girl sleeping in a tent in a parking lot, just kind of at the corner here of the store that I work at, and she would come into the store, and she seemed really normal, like, as normal as the rest of us are, I guess, but like she didn't seem wackadoo at all, like, not high, not drunk, not crazy. She had, she pulled out a bunch of money out of her pocket, and I saw her working downtown. And I'm like, okay, so she has a job. Like, I mean, I saw her like with an apron on, washing out a tote at one of the fish markets over here. And I'm like, man, what is up with this chick? Like, this is not like your typical like homeless girl going on. Her tent was all messed up. Like, it was like falling down, like the poles were broken on it, but it was just kind of standing a little bit, like just enough to kind of tuck into, I guess. And so because she was so cool and nice and coming into the store and was really polite, and one of the other guys brought her a tent because her tent's falling down, right? And it was like, oh, here's a tent for you. And she wasn't there. She must have been working or something. She didn't use the tent. Like, the tent just sat outside her broken tent and just sat there on the ground. And then one day we didn't see her anymore. Like, her tent was there and some of her stuff was there, but like she was gone. Like, we couldn't find her at all. Now, the owner of the fish market that she was working at, he comes in, and I was just like, dude, what's up with that homeless girl that works for you? And he was just like, oh, she quit. And I was just like, oh, that's not a surprise. I was just like, what's her story? And he goes, I don't know. She said that she was going to go bike across Russia. And I'm like, really? So anyway, that was her gig. Like, she didn't need a house. She just needed a tent to live in for a while. She got a pocket full of money, and boom, she was out of here. She was like, go head off to her plan to go bike across Russia. I don't know how that's working out for her now. But anyway, thought that was an interesting story. Hope you all enjoyed that. Cut a small slit in the headliner and use spray adhesive. Spray it in there. Works well. Yeah, here, let me show you. See, the rest of the headliner looks like that. It's all fallen down. It's like torn off. The only reason why I keep it up there is to keep the insulation from falling on me. I guess I could make this part look good, I guess. All right. The war in Yemen is a no-no. Remember that the Saudis are our allies, so that's okay. I don't know. All the wars and everything, I mean, it's going to get... I try not to think about them too much, because it's going to, like, if you know that they're coming, like, currency wars lead to trade wars, which leads to real wars. So, I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, I don't know where or who or how or what's going to happen next. There's a lot of other people out there who have some great channels that love to, like, fire people up on that stuff. So, I mean, if you really want to know about it, I mean, go check out some of those guys. Just being aware that they are going to happen, then they don't surprise you when they do. I mean, it's just like, just like Russia taking over, doing bombing and raiding and doing all the stuff that they're doing. It's for their fight for their natural resources. I mean, why else would they do it? I don't think you'd have any problems with Russia, or not you. I mean, I don't think there would be any problems if Russia was allowed to pretty much take over all the Ukraine natural resources, and then nobody would have died and fought. But who wants that, right? Who wants another nation coming in and just taking your stuff? It's the reason why people hate the United States as much as they do. But, Russia's just blatant about it. And they're like, no, you're going to do this or else. And, I mean, there's really not a lot of difference. It's just the flavor in which you do it, right? Taco Bell politics, It's just the flavor in which you want to receive it or where you want to believe. I see all these people, like, running around talking about supporting Ukraine. Well, I'm totally down for that. Do you know why you need to do it other than hearing it on the news? I mean, no, they don't. They have no clue, And so it's just like, maybe get a little grasp on, on that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know exactly why, you know, and just like they knew exactly with COVID and all that other stuff. Anyway, let's move on. UE, in your opinion, does the Fed increase 75 or 100 basis point at the end of the month? Do you think that either way? Why do you think that either way? It's hard to predict what it is that they're going to do. It's not so much of like what, like whether it's 75 or 100 basis points. That part is not nearly as important as are they going to like. It's not so much like if they are or aren't, right? Because that, I guess that would be the real question. Are you going to raise interest rates or are you not? The amount that they raise, I think, has less to do with the actual impact to the economy. Now, you got to think it's a credible threat, right? What they want to do is they want the markets to go ahead and price in that credible threat. They want them to behave as if it's already happened. That way, when the interest rates do get raised, it won't have like a major impact on the economy. So they can raise the interest rates, the interest rates, whether it's the treasuries or the mortgages or anything else, simply by stating it. Like, hey, we're going to do this into the future. And then everybody starts to behave in that fashion. That's why, inflation expectation is such a big deal. It works both ways. So if they just put it out there, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to raise interest rates. We're not quite sure how much. 75, maybe 100 basis point. Don't know. It doesn't really matter. The market's going to go like, shit, okay. And now they're going to go in there and they're going to start like, demanding higher interest rates for the treasuries or the bonds, or, they're going to, bonds, I guess, will sell off or whatever it takes. Everything will start behaving in a fashion as if they had already done it. So the Fed can raise interest rates in the economy and not do anything at all. Like nothing. They could just say it. They could just say, hey, we're going to do this into the future. And then the markets will start taking care of business. And then they look back and say, so what do you think we got there? Do you think we should do 75 or 100? I mean, now that we're here, the market's priced in what? 100 basis points? Let's go 100 then. Let's get our ammo back. So after you start hearing the Fed saying, well, we're going to have to be data dependent on our next rate hike. We're not sure if we're going to actually raise rates. When you hear that, that's going to be the more critical information, because now the market's going to be like, oh no, now what do we do? Do we raise rates? Do we participate in the idea of raising rates? That like is going to start confusing the markets, because if they go ahead and raise rates at the end of that month, well, then the market's going to have to price that in. But if they don't believe they're going to raise rates, well, then that'll be priced in. And if the Fed does it, then then they have to start doing something about it. So that's what I would really wait for, is not so much like how much they're going to raise the rates to, but if or not they are going to raise rates. That would be like the question when they say that they're data dependent on whether or not they're going to raise rates on the next meeting or something like that. If they're not giving you any indication of what's going to come, they're not giving you the credible threats, that's the time that you know that they're almost done. They're like, they don't have it in them anymore, or they don't feel that they're going to do, like they feel the economy is at where they want it to be. However that happens or looks, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you how far it's going to go. I do know that they want to get their rates up. They want to get the Fed funds level up as high as they can, because the next recession, dropping interest rates from where they are right now, is going to have very little impact on the economy. It'll have a little bit, but not enough to do anything, not enough to stimulate. Dropping interest rates around 5%, that will stimulate the economy. That will get people out there borrowing money to go out and buy houses and cars and go on vacation and do all the rest of the stuff. But if you don't have the room to drop it, you hit the lower bound of zero, then there's no room. There's nothing you can do. And unless you have a pandemic with special purpose vehicles and everybody staying home and being locked down and stimulus going out there, there's no real reason to have the quantitative easing like they did. Like, bailing out corporations is political suicide. Like, they know it. So if you can cover that up with something else, a war, a natural disaster, like, they would love to have aliens. Aliens would be best, especially if it was like a distant foreign outside couldn't possibly see it, and there's just this imagination happening outside of there, and they're like, oh man, the aliens are going to come get you. We got to prepare now, and everybody's got to start listening to us, because these aliens that are up in the space, they're headed your way. That would do the same thing. Like, they would love that, because then they could do all kinds of stuff with that information. That's conspiracy theory rolling, right? Oh, wow. So many of you comment. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about getting so late to this. Okay. Michael, $1.99. How low do you see silver going to? Big fan. Thanks. It's going to go low. It's going to go low because people are not manufacturing like they once were, or they're not going to manufacture. The demand for silver is going to drop, and the dollar is going to rise at the same time. Your opportunity to buy silver is probably going to be pretty good. Now, how low will that go? It's gonna go until miners say, man, the operating costs don't pay for this. Like, I'm not gonna produce any more silver. I mean, it can go all the way to, $5. Who knows how far down it can go? The chances of that are pretty slim. Like the downward risk in silver is pretty low. Like, even now when we see like a lot of it selling off, we see what, gold at 1700 or whatever. There's still a lot of room for things to go down in price. But it just eventually gets to a point where there are so many buyers jumping in that it just can't go much further than that. If you keep pushing the paper, like silver derivatives out there, if you keep pushing that, you're putting the people who do that are putting themselves in a very precarious situation. So I don't know. Like, I couldn't say how low silver could go. It really depends on how much crisis we go into, how much demand for dollars there is out there. If you need to get into dollars, you'll start selling everything you have. You'll start selling off your stocks. You'll sell off your gold and silver. You'll sell off your Bitcoin. You'll sell off everything that you can in order to get the dollars to pay your debt. So it really depends on how bad the recession is. How much quantitative tightening does the Federal Reserve go into? How much pain do they need to see the rest of the world go into? And how much will the rest of the world start selling off their silver? I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into that question. And then again, if we go into lockdowns, all bets be off, right? It changes the scene completely. All right. Nah, bud, I climb trees. They're gone, blow out in a week. I don't know what that is. All right, MySpace was fun. The stuff they have now is awful. All right. If you do the sponsorship, I hope they let you do it your own way. Um, I did. Like, I've already done a video. I don't know, like, I'm gonna have it reviewed and see if they enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Like, I try to make it as entertaining as possible, and try to be as informative as possible as I could inside of this video. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'll get the feedback from it. I may have to do a different one. But I like I said, I hope you guys enjoy it if it does come through. So. Let's see here. I lose 1,175 every dollar silver drops. Wow, that's what, 1,175 ounces you have, huh? That's actually pretty cool to have that much. I mean, you must sleep really well at night. Like, if I don't even have remotely close to that much. I hope to someday, but if you have that much, unless you have like this huge family or something, that must feel pretty good. Like, even if you had a lot of debts and issues and all kinds of stuff going on out there, having physical silver of that kind of like stack, that would make me feel like super good. Like, I would be like, cool, whatever happens, let the world burn or whatever, it doesn't matter because I got my stack of silver. And that's really how I would feel about it. I mean, that's an insurance policy. I don't think about how much my silver goes up and down every day. I don't even consider that at all. I see when it goes down, it gets me like pumped up to think, well, man, maybe I should buy some silver. But other than that, I don't look at like the value of the total stack of silver or anything like that. It's not so much about what it's worth, it's how many ounces. All right. What was that? I am a union member, and the federal government is bailing out unions like my union with 94 billions of taxpayer money. I am grateful, but I feel a bit guilty for this bailout. Am I wrong? I don't know if you should feel guilty about that, man. As an individual, I would be all over that stuff. I mean, be happy about that and, take advantage of your situation. That's what I say about that. Like, I don't I invest money in Altria. Like, I'm not pumping that up. If you want to invest in something, you go and do your own research and decide whether or not that's going to work for you. I invest money into Altria. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do any of like the things that are addictive like that. And I invest in that because I know a little bit about addiction. So, in my opinion, like Altria is a great place to invest money. I don't think people are going to quit smoking and drinking, and it pays like a 9% dividend yield right now. People were like, man, why would you invest in a company that, promotes this like kind of sin thing going on, like, bad behavior or whatever? It's just like, it's not up to me to judge what somebody else is going to do with their life. It's not up to me, and it's whether I invested in or not doesn't change somebody else's behavior. If there was more people who were concerned about their health and drinking and doing all that other stuff, then maybe I would not consider that. But I don't see it. I see people drinking and smoking, and there's no change to that. So yeah, I'm going to profit from some of that. All right, let's see here. I've been single for a few years now. I am thinking about dating again soon. I can have a girlfriend start canning food for me. Well, if you found a girlfriend who can, then you got a good woman going on there. Trust me, I know. Let's see here. What is that? Evening? Is that what you're trying to say? Most businesses will collapse from the lack of workers. Um, I think most businesses you're going to find are going to collapse because they can't roll their old debt into new debt. Like, they won't be able to sell their corporate bonds. They won't be able to get financing, and the debt load will take them out. Mainly talking about the zombie corporations. So that's who I feel is probably going to end up, failing. And then unemployment will rise. All right, what about a sword made of pure silver? Uh, well, I wouldn't buy a sword made of pure silver unless you were just like super fabulously wealthy and just wanted this unique piece that you can wield around because it looks cool. What are you going to do in case of an emergency? Like, cut the blade up, to here, I need some, I need a piece of the silver to, I need to sell it off. I mean, it might be a cool piece, but I wouldn't have anything like, if you haven't if you haven't started stacking silver at all, I would start by stacking some generic bullion, then move into government issued stuff, then or get into junk silver. If you can get junk silver cheap, junk silver is not meaning that it's junk. They call it junk silver just because that's the name of it. It's all the pre 64 or pre 65, 1964 and earlier dimes and quarters. They call that junk silver. And I like that stuff for trading and bartering kind of ideas because it's small denominations, right? It's a quarter and it's a dime. So I would get into junk silver, generic bullion, government issued bullion, and then from there start moving into like 10-ounce bars. If once you have accumulated a good stack of like smaller weight silver pieces, because when it comes time to unloading silver, like unless you're buying a car like I did, then you're going to have issues if you just want to break off a little piece of your 10-ounce bar. You'd much rather have like smaller stuff that you can trade, and then you can always stack that smaller stuff up to make the bigger purchases. So having smaller denominated silver or smaller weighted silver, that's really going to be more useful than having a big chunk. Like 100-ounce bar is cool to look at. It's fun. It's like, here, hold this for a second. But what are you going to do with that? I mean, it's like a big purchase, and it's a big unload if you do want to get rid of it. So, all right. Let's see here. Fractional gold for the win. Yeah. Should people pay off debt that's not fixed rate for first or investment? Or invest. Okay. There is no better investment than to pay off debt, because no matter what your debts are, I mean, unless you have like something that is just ridiculously low, like some of the mortgages out there that got in under 3%, that you may not want to pay off early. That you can probably just sit there and pay off slowly, because the interest rate that you pay on it is so small that you could use that capital that you would typically go to pay the principal payment. You could invest that and get over that 3% interest that you are paying on the home loan. Okay, so if you could take like $100 and earn a 5% interest off of it, and you're paying a 3% interest on the home loan, well, you're actually gaining like 2% on your money, because you could be paying off that home loan and getting rid of that 3% debt, but instead you're going for the 5% interest. So even though you're going for 5% interest on your money, you're really only making 2% off of that. You see, because you're using part of that profit basically to make your interest payment on your home loan. So paying off your home loan makes a lot of sense if you have a higher interest rate attached to it. But if it's really low and you can get a really good return on your capital, then it makes more sense to go into capital than to pay off really cheap debt. Now, what I have done is something a little different, is I've made payments ahead. So, if I, and it hasn't been easy. I mean, I've been saving a lot of money to do this, but it's kind of like my emergency fund. Instead of holding on to the money for an emergency, I'm paying my months out ahead so that I can get like 6 months ahead on my payments. Should anything happen, I don't have to make payments until I catch up to that. So I've been paying off early, not principal, but paying the payments up early so I can secure that time. Like, so I can have the ability to not make payments for a few months. Once I get that up to a significant amount, like, maybe 6 months, I'm guessing, or maybe even a year if I can really push it. Then once I do that, then I'll start making principal payments. I'll start paying off the thing early. But I like having that cushion. Like, if I screw up one month, or, something happens, like maybe even just, decide that you want to go on vacation or something, that's like money in the bank almost. It's like, okay, you don't have to make that payment this month. And that's pretty cool to have that set ahead. Like I said, it's almost like the emergency fund is like already prepaid into the house. Again, that doesn't take care of your interest. It doesn't knock down the interest at all. So it does cost a little bit to do that, but like I have an interest rate of like 3.25%. It's not that bad. To me, it's worth it to be ahead right now. But after that, yeah, it would make a lot more sense to pay off your debts before you start to invest. But if you got to wait 30 years before you invest, then you're probably going to miss out on investments. So pay off your house, pay off your debts early. But yeah, I mean, you definitely should invest into something, I don't know. That's a hard one to say. I'm not an investor, so I don't really know. All right, let's see here. Do you think another Plaza Accord would solve the problem regarding the dollar being too valuable outside the U.S. and worth nothing inside the U.S.? It could. So like the Plaza Accord was like a big currency swap that had taken place, where like all these countries around the world and pretty much swapped out a bunch of dollars for their currency to try and stabilize the value of the dollar there, to keep it from, getting too much out of proportion. If they did do a Plaza Accord kind of thing, I would imagine that they would do it with the cryptocurrencies, like our central bank digital currency. I think that would make a lot more sense to use that crisis, or a reason for such a crisis, to introduce the central bank digital currencies. And at that point, then it would make it also a lot easier for that currency swap kind of thing to happen. So yeah, I guess it could. I would see something like that happening. All right. Go home to your wife. You know what? I'm going to give it 15 more minutes and then I am going to go home. But thank you very much. Shakamula, you know exactly what was going on in my mind. All right. Gotta have immediate liquidity. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, that's what everybody's concerned about during a recession, is how well are you going to be able to get into cash? Like, a lot of people were like, I have like all these things that are worth money. Like I got fancy artwork, or I got, this car or something that I can sell. Well, how easy is it to liquidate that stuff? Even like people like particular precious metals, palladium or platinum. Those things are they're precious metals, just like, gold and silver is. However, when you walk into a bar, right, and you have a silver eagle, the chances of you finding somebody who recognizes what a silver eagle is and be able to sell it to them for spot price is so much easier than trying to find somebody to buy palladium. Now, you might find a coin dealer and you might find some online dealers, but you're probably not going to find a whole lot of people out there just in your network who's really down for buying palladium. Like there might be some, but trying to find somebody who buys silver is going to be a whole lot easier, like way easier. So yeah, they're both precious metals. They both have use. They both have kind of the characteristics that you would expect coming from precious metals, but one's going to be a lot easier to unload than the other. And you have to think about that. Like that's part of like having a safety, a safety insurance policy like silver is how easy is it to liquidate. Thank you very much, John, for the $1.99. Think the sterling pound reaches parity with the dollar? I think the dollar is going to destroy everybody. It is going to anybody who has massive amounts of debt, like who are strung out on debt to the limit, and if they have taken out, like they're a sovereign nation that has taken out a lot of debt and now they don't have a lot of income, places like just we called out Sri Lanka a long time ago. They were going into crisis and there was nothing there for them, right? The IMF was like, well, maybe we can bail you out. There was no way. I mean, what are they going to do? Throw a bunch of money at them to somebody who's not going to succeed? I mean, Sri Lanka was done for. I mean, like, I don't think there was anything that could have happened except for not taking out the debt originally, which, who was going to do that? I mean, everybody screams at the government that they don't do a good job, so they take out a bunch of debt and try to provide stuff for them, and then they go start going bankrupt, and people are like, man, you guys suck at this. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's I mean, being like politicians can't do it. Like, doing the right thing is not happening. Like that's not even in the concepts of like politicians. There's some out there who might say it, who might say, here's the right thing to do. But there's no way as a group they're going to do the right thing. Like what they're going to do is they're going to take out more debt, trying to provide some sort of relief to the people out there so they don't get mad at them. Like that's I mean, it's the simplest way to say it. I don't mean to get political. I don't want to get political. All right. Do you think that countries like China are going to accept central bank digital currencies? Yeah, places like China are already doing central bank digital currency. Like they were the first ones to really push out the programs and start like initiating cities. Like they had test cities and they would pay some of their government employees in cryptocurrencies, and then they were like going to try and use it during the Olympics and stuff like that. So yeah, central bank digital currencies. Yeah, all the banks are gonna use them. I mean, it's just a matter of time. I mean, it's there's too much talk and too much like research and too many like programs and things that are happening that says that they're just going to scrap this idea. It's not happening. They are not going to scrap the idea of central bank digital currencies. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you very much, Arthur, for the $10, 10 Canadian dollars. I really appreciate that. Today, most people in their 20s and 30s own almost nothing and live broken families. Yeah. So why they should fight for a country that giving them nothing? Good question. That is a very good question. Um, I mean, I guess if you were to understand and learn the Constitution, like if you understood the Bill of Rights, and you believe in those things, like you do, understand that you have personal freedoms and that you're free from government if you choose to be. If people had that belief in them, like if they knew it, then a lot of the things that we experience within this country would not exist. But unfortunately, like I doubt you could find 1 in 100 people who could list the Bill of Rights. In fact, probably not even 1 in 1,000 people who could list the Bill of Rights by memory. I mean, this is something that I've done. Like I could sit there and dictate the Bill of Rights out. It's not like something that you can do in a single day. You do have to kind of understand them to really be able to do it well. And if you're going to memorize anything, memorize the Fourth. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution is probably the most important piece of information within the Constitution that you should memorize. If you can cement that into your tongue, then it will protect you in many ways. And one of those ways is just behaving in a way that will not allow you to be in trouble or get in trouble with authority, right? The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, the rights of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. Know that. Know it well. Understand why. And if you do, then like a lot of the stuff that people try to say is rights, you can be like, that ain't right. You know, that's a damn privilege that you're talking about, and don't mistake it, because your rights are very important. When I hear people talk about we have a right to this and we have a right to that, and it's like, no, you don't. First of all, you do not have a right to make a doctor perform an operation. You do not have that right, okay? That is just straight up not a right. That is a privilege. You are lucky that person is willing to operate on you. And you should keep it that way. You should know that. That every business that's out there, even this YouTube channel, is not a right. I don't have a right to be here. It's a privilege to use this platform. And if people are like, well, they're just going against your constitutional rights to freedom of speech, yeah, that's true. It's a private company, and they don't have to accept the right, right? I stand out there on the street, I get the right to say whatever I want, but here on this platform, I don't, and I accept that. For this reason, I have to limit a lot of what I say. The comment section takes care of business for me. Yeah, think about that, guys. All right, question. Isn't buying gold and silver and shorting the market kind of the same thing? Yeah, I mean, well, it's hedging your bet, right? I mean, if you buy silver and then you short it and the price goes down, then you make money. If the price goes up, then your silver position makes money. So it's like a hedge. You're like, flying like even if you do that right. Now, if you triple up your shortage, like, the way you short it, because you can, like, there's housing market ETFs out there that will triple short the mortgage market. So, like, if you really believe that the mortgage market is going to fail and that you're going to find all these mortgage-backed securities going into the toilet, you can buy ETFs that will, like, do incredibly well in that environment. I don't suggest you do any investing and I don't suggest you invest at all. Like, that is not what I do here. The possibilities of that exist. So do your research on that, but just realize that there's like ways that you can make a lot of money when the price of something goes down. During recessions, people make a lot of money shorting the markets. Yeah. All right. If it goes down to half, it will be loss. With Facebook, YouTube, it's free. You are the product. That's right. That is very true. If you are not paying for the product, you are the product. That is exactly true. Okay? And that's unfortunate, to look at it that way, but it's the truth. It's just the reality of it. You have the right to switch platforms. Privileges has nothing to do with it at all. You're right, I do. But I have a much broader audience here than anywhere else. Now, I am reaching out and going to find places to post videos that is off of YouTube, right? But when it comes to reaching the audience, to reach the masses, there's no better way than doing it on YouTube. And like I said, I can't do some things, but the commenters can. And I have to be careful sometimes in that, right? I mean, they go off all the time. They have all their theories and all the stuff that you want to hear. Whether or not you choose to read that stuff and to research some of the things that they're saying, that's up to you. I mean, but the truth is in the comments. Go find them. All right, this man speaks the truth. I hope everyone pays attention. I appreciate that. Thank you. And again, like, don't believe me. I mean, if you hear something that seems so outlandish, go and research that stuff. I mean, I may not be right. I mean, these are the things that I researched. It's the theories that I've come up with. I mean, I hope that I'm right in all my, thoughts and stuff like that. But, I mean, I come up with some pretty kind of wild things sometimes. I may not be right on them. A lot of people were calling me crazy, over, a year ago or more. And now they're coming back going, dude, I cannot believe how accurate you were. I mean, it was just like, yeah, I mean, you can also say that a broken clock is right twice a day, right? I mean, so it's not exactly like, a proven science to any of this stuff. It all comes down to theories. You have to understand, like, the emotions of people. You have to understand a little bit about politics, because, there is some political things that happen that are going to change the way that, the economy behaves. But for the most part, you can follow the Federal Reserve. You can follow what the interest rates are doing. You can kind of look out there and see how it is that people are behaving when it comes to businesses and how they spend their money. And you can kind of get an idea of what it is that's probably going to happen into the future. especially if you have like, access to vendors and you have a retail store that you can work at and you have a lot of people that you can ask questions to. I mean, you start gathering in all this information, pretty soon you're coming up with ideas, and that's where the goal of this channel, or the goal of this channel is to put out the information, and hopefully we can have the conversation that deciphers it all. All right, if the Fed was private, they would voice their advice to Congress. The Fed is private. Like, the Federal Open Market Committee, that's like the brain of the monetary policy. Like, they come together and they vote on what monetary policy is going to be. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, the appointed chairman, I mean, Trump put Jerome Powell into place and then yelled at him. And, it's just like, that dude doesn't do anything. Like, he's not the decision maker at all. Like, he doesn't make any decisions. And everybody wants to point at him as some kind of idiot. I guess he's a useful idiot or something, but really he just speaks the mind of the FOMC. You notice, like, the FOMC, anytime anybody, like, any of the four Fed governors or presidents or anybody who sits on the Federal Open Market Committee, anytime they are interviewed, they are limited on what they will say. They will give some opinions, they will talk about some certain things, but then when it comes to the decisions from the Federal Open Market Committee and the decisions that will be coming into the future, they will not say a word about it. Jerome Powell will. The chairman of the Federal Reserve will then speak for the FOMC. As an individual, they will talk. They will give some ideas on how they feel about, the economy and stuff. But as far as the decisions that are made, they will not talk about those. That's up to Jerome Powell. And they just put it down to one person, and they just, he's like the communicator, of the FOMC. I'm going to give it a few more minutes here, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. There's 516 of you, 538 likes. This is awesome. You guys have been great tonight. All right. How are roofing materials pricing and availability currently? Sucks. That's the only word I can say about it. It's like, it's terrible. Price of it is just off the charts. We used to have a bunch of vendors that we could buy roofing from. And all these vendors have been concentrated into like one. And I don't want to give out names or anything like that. There are a few vendors of roofing out there that you can go to. But when it comes to trying getting roofing delivered to like our area, it has been very difficult. Especially somebody comes and says, hey, I got a little project. I need 25 bundles of roofing, right? And I want it in this color from this brand. Now, I have a vendor who can do that, right? He'll give me that color, that brand. Getting it to me is the hard part. He was just like, well, yours is the only order going that way, so you have to wait until I get more orders heading your way, or you can pay a delivery fee to get this. Now, once you tack the delivery fee on getting it because you don't want to wait, the guy wants to do his project, now you're priced out of the market. He was like, man, you already kind of had the price that wasn't quite as good because you're only buying 25 bundles instead of buying a whole truckload of this stuff. When you have a situation like that happening, it makes it very difficult to sell that product. And so that's really what's happening now. So as this concentration of like all these different roofing vendors are now kind of consolidating into one, and it's not like all of them, it was just a few that we used. Now, like, unless we buy a truckload, which we've done in the past, like we have a truckload of roofing, but you can't carry every color, so you just carry the common color that everybody's going to buy, black and gray. But now if somebody wants like, brown or something like that, then now you have to deal with the issue of trying to get the vendors to deliver that to you. Man, every time I do a live stream, Life Flight shows up. Crazy. All right, let's see here. Yes, I too love the Taco Bell thing. Was great. I have told others about it. Yeah, spread that around. Let's see if we can get Taco Bell politics to be a meme, and then we know that it started on the Uneducated Economist, right? We'll know that's the way it kicked off. So make a bunch of memes and spread that stuff around. Let's get Taco Bell politics to be like hashtag Taco Bell politics. I can't even say it. So. And then we all know that it came from me. I've been talking about Taco Bell politics for years. I've heard they overbidding to add inflation cushion. Thanks. I don't know. Damn, that helicopter sounds like a machine gun. Yeah, he lands right There, it's probably, I don't know, 300 yards away, if that. All right, Bernanke, quick look for money. What do you about the world economic? What do I know about the world? They are behind the crisis. Are they behind the crisis, or was the crisis going to come anyway? Like like a lot of times, I even had a discussion earlier with a friend of mine who was like trying to fall into like, if we had voted this person, that person in, and I said, yeah, did you happen to watch my video yesterday talking about Taco Bell politics? And she was like, no. And so I explained Taco Bell politics to her, and then I started explaining like Cantillon effect, and started explaining how imports start driving out the domestic manufacturing, and then how the economy starts to fall, and how most like politicians have no clue about this, and during the good times they'll, instead of like saving money and being prepared and getting ready for a downturn, they just kind of willy-nilly just throw it out there for everybody to be happy with. And then eventually the money turns off, the imports start flowing in, and everybody goes into poverty. And like I was explaining this Cantillon effect to her, and she was just like, oh man. And I'm like, so it doesn't really matter who you vote for. I mean, it's like, this is gonna happen. So the World Economic Forum didn't cause, I mean, sure they did, all right, yeah, it was the World Economic Forum that did it, all right. But you also have to think that, because I don't want to argue with that, but you also have to think this is like cyclical. It's going to happen, and some people are really much aware of it, and they're going to take advantage of that situation. That's the World Economic Forum, okay? You will own nothing and be happy. Well, I mean, hey, it's better than owning nothing and having nothing and not being happy. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm not trying to defend them or anything like that, but if you already don't have a whole lot of possessions and there's nothing to take from you, then then I'll make the World Economic Forum my bitch. I mean, I don't give a shit about them. They can try and do whatever they want. I see the crisis coming. I see the world sovereign debt crisis happening, right? And if you're not prepared in dealing with it, I mean, just because these guys are going to take advantage of it doesn't mean that you shouldn't either. Red Bull gives you wings, Taco Bell gives you gas. Yeah, that's for sure. Let's see, what time is it? It is 2 hours into this stuff. I don't know if I should. I should probably go. All right. Sometimes having nothing is pretty cool hand. Well, having nothing means you really don't have a lot to lose. And that's where like a guy like me, I mean, people look at me, they see me on YouTube, I have this 100,000 subscriber base, but a lot of people don't quite realize I was broke, like really broke a few years ago. I drive this car because this is what I could afford at the time that I bought it. Now, I could go buy a brand new car. This thing runs great. I would love to have a new car, but I would much rather have the money. I would much rather have the security. I would much rather have the ability to take my family out on vacation and not stress about the money that comes from it or have to go into debt to do it. I don't need a new car. I don't need fancy things in my life. I just need my family. I need the house. I need transportation, and I need that. Like, that's what I need. Everything else is a want. And even the Cantillon effect says, within it, that when people start diving into luxuries, like if they, he actually admits it, that his theory as far as the Cantillon effect goes would not play out if people wouldn't dive into luxuries. That's really what it comes down to. Once you start going into luxuries, once everybody starts going into the luxurious items, that is really where the Cantillon effect starts playing out. If people didn't do that, if they held on to their money, if they started businesses, if they redeployed all that capital back into something that was productive instead of into things that are fancy and fun, then the Cantillon effect wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't be there. But people don't have that. Like, once you have the money, like even me, like I want to drive a new car. I mean, I have this dream of driving a Camaro someday, right? But it's just a dream at this point. I don't really have any like plan to get one. But if I did in the future, it's because I really want to drive something nice, not an old Toyota, right? So it's that kind of mentality that goes into it that really causes that whole situation to play out, because as people want those luxuries, they keep importing more and more foreign goods, driving out ever increasing amounts of the domestic manufacturing. So it's really like the dive into luxuries that causes it, in the end. Homeless don't look happy. Well, because they have nothing in their life, okay? It's much different having nothing and having the... Oh, okay, the phone just reconnected. See, I could drive a new car. It's not a matter of having the new car. It's the ability to do it. That changes the way you feel about everything. I can do a lot of stuff. I'm choosing not to do it. I'm postponing those things, not because I'm denying myself happiness. It's because I don't need it. I hold on to the stuff for the things that I want. All right, not for the things that I need, not necessarily for the things that I want. Homeless need and want everything. There is nothing in their life that is satisfactory, right? So yeah, they have nothing and they have no ability to get anything. That will make you unhappy. You can have nothing and have all the ability in the world to get anything you want, and I guarantee you, you will be happy. It will, well, happiness doesn't come from money, but you won't be saddened by that, is what I guess I'm getting at. So it's not necessarily having it, it's the ability to have it. That's really where the wealth is. And besides, you have to think, wealth is three things. It's food, conveniences, and pleasures of life. That's wealth. So if you have food and you have your conveniences, after that, it's just a matter of enjoying your life. That's wealth. You don't really need a lot of money to make that happen. All right, wow, there are a lot of you in here. Okay, let's see. There is happiness index. In the past 100 years, this is the second worst time. Only 1943 was worse. Yeah, it's because, again, people didn't have the ability. Like, if you don't have the ability to travel, you don't have the ability to go out and do the things that you normally did. If you were being restricted and you have these mandates and all the other crap that goes along with it, why would you be happy from that? That doesn't make you happy. Happiness comes from the ability to do something. This guy's skating by. He just did a nice hop over this rocks over here. Anyway, but that's really where happiness comes from. It comes from the ability to do something, not necessarily like, doing it. It can't, like, doing things can make you happy, but it's the ability to be able to do it. That's really where, that doesn't make you sad anyway. That's what I guess is what it comes down to. Man will not be free until the last king is strangled by the entrails of the last priest. Wow, that was that was a hell of a comment. Okay, the quality of life is falling with some leadership. Well, the quality of life is falling because of leadership or because of the decision that you have made. Like, my quality of life is expanding. I've made decisions in the past that say don't behave like you used to because that's screwing you up, and start behaving in a better fashion and start doing things that are better for you and your family and for life. And then my standard of living came up, right? I mean, it was the decisions that I made for my own personal self. I didn't give a shit like what government did. Like, I don't care about what government says or does. They don't affect my life, right? I make the decisions for myself. And so if you're looking for government to bring you happiness, good luck. Good luck with that one. It isn't going to happen, all right? And I don't care who gets voted. I mean, Obama used to open his mouth and doves would fly out, and everybody would just be like, oh my gosh, he is going to do the best job ever. And I was like, my life got, turned to hell. I mean, my life sucked when he was in president. So I don't blame him for it. It was my decisions that I was making. Like, it wasn't Obama's fault, okay? But it was definitely a bad time in my life. My guy dodging my question like Nelson Algora avoids catching footballs. Okay, Sean, where is it? Is this it right here? How many cycles do you think the bullwhip effect will run, and what do you think about car repos going up? Well, we talked a little bit about car repos going up, and I mean, that's like, we're starting to see it happen. We know why. It's because people during, the pandemic get the stimulus, go out there and buy a car. They're driving around this fancy car that they thought was awesome. Now the gas prices are going up and they can't go travel somewhere to eat. What's the point of having a fancy car? I mean, you would rather have the money to enjoy your life than to have a fancy car, so let the car go into repo. I mean, it's just like, get rid of this damn thing. It's more of a burden than a pleasure. That's why you're probably going to see a lot more coming into the future. Now, I'm not trying to dodge the question at all. What was the bullwhip effect? Yes, you're going to see more of it. You're going to see oversupply, undersupply, oversupply. Now, how that looks as far as like the inventory levels, like TVs and all the stuff going on at Walmart and Target and all that, that's going to be a very interesting one, because I think once all this inventory has been moved out of the ports, like away from the ships, through the ports, through the distribution networks, and into the retail stores and starts getting sold, there's not going to be a lot of manufacturing happening from that. So the bullwhip effect may not apply quite to the extreme quickness like lumber did, because lumber was like boom, months later boom, then it's happening very quickly. Here we're starting to see the inventory levels rise. This is obviously the bullwhip effect. You can, there's news articles now all over the place talking about it. So once that inventory has been depleted, then the manufacturing has to start ramping up again. So like, how long does this take? What does this equilibrium look like? It's not going to flatten out like in the next, 6 months. You're going to have this oversupply have to turn into undersupply. Then you have to have manufacturing pick up, and then you're going to have like all these orders again as people start to go and figure out where it is that they're going to get this stuff from. You're going to find products going to travel from different areas. Like, I've never seen nails, like nail gun nails. They're always either American made or Chinese made. Hardly ever do I see them from any other nation. And we got a whole pallet of them come from India. Like, I have never seen nails come from India. Now, maybe other people have, and other distributors are selling it, but I've never seen them before until now. So obviously the supply chain had reached out to another place to try and acquire these things, very much like the Cantillon effect says it would. They would find foreign products from other manufacturers. They won't be as good, but they're going to be about the price that they're looking for, so they'll bring those in. And it's obvious that it's happening. I mean, even like damn rubber gloves. We saw this, like, because the personal protective equipment zapped all the rubber gloves, all these latex gloves and stuff off of the shelves. We had to get them from anywhere we could, and we found both American made ones coming in, and then some coming from like places that you typically wouldn't see, like China. Well, China and Vietnam were probably like the big suppliers of those things, but then they started coming in from other places too, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was like odd to us. It was just like, well, it was odd to me. I don't know about anybody else. I'm probably the only one who looked, but you saw it happening, and so this is part of the effect, right? The reasons why they didn't come in before is because the shipping costs were so expensive. The product might have been cheaper, but you could get the product cheaper from China, but now the shipping coming out of China was disrupted, so you can get them from this other place, even though it might be a little bit more expensive to ship it. Now you have the availability coming from this other area, so now they become the supplier, right? You make new partnerships. Happened a lot with like logs. Okay, here in the United States, what time is it? I gotta go, guys. Okay, here in the United States, we had lumber prices running up to 1700s. All the loggers and everybody who like falls timber and stuff like that, we're going, what's going on here? Our prices aren't running up to like the 1700 per thousand. Why is that? I mean, sure, the lumber mills are making money, the distributors are making money, the retailers are making money, but none of the loggers are making money. This is obviously a sign of manipulation. Those freighters that sit on that river, like, I don't know how many, but a huge amount of them transport logs out of this area, and they take them overseas. That's a huge product, right? That's a huge agricultural product that is being shipped out of this country. We do not consume all the logs in this country. We cannot possibly log as much as we do and consume that lumber. We have to export it. So these loggers, during a time that the lumber prices were running up, was hit by a tariff was hit by a tariff from China during the whole trade wars, right? So we hit Canada with the tariff. They're like, hey man, you're dumping your lumber into the United States, and we're going to have to hit you with a tariff, even though the lumber prices are at an all-time high, to prevent you from like unfairly, putting an unfair advantage on our mills, right? So this happens. Once you disrupt the supply chain like that, because China was pissed about it. They were like, oh, you know what? Screw you. We're going to Russia. So they went to Russia, and Russia became the #1 exporter of forestry products. It used to be Canada. Now, I don't know if that's still the case today because of everything that's happened, but during the trade wars, that is what happened. And so people want to call manipulation out on the forest industry when it comes to lumber versus logs. But nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about the exporting of logs being the reason, and that there was a huge diminishing in that exportation of logs. And that's really the reason why the loggers weren't making as much money as the lumber mills were. All right. Guys, I'm going to have to go. I really... Oh, there was a super chat. I'm sorry. I guess I have to answer the super chat. All right, Marius 40101. Opinion on World War III. Ugh. All right. Fear and hunger, bankruptcies plus martial law. Just point towards an enemy, crowd will follow. Some like COVID. Or same like COVID. I don't know. Like the fear, I think the fear of going to World War would be more advantageous to governments and everybody else than to actually go to war. Like you can manipulate and change the way that people behave, unless you just want them dead. Like if you just want people dead and out of there because they're overpopulated or something, then I don't really see any need to go to war. Like there's no point in killing off a bunch of people. If you want to take over the natural resources, you can do that without killing anybody. I mean, just ask the United States. They do it all the time. Of course, they kill people to do it too. But, I mean, for the most part, they just, like, indebt a country to the point that they have no other choice. So that's really, like, I don't know. I try not to think about wars because I just can't stand it. I'm more of a pacifist kind of person who would much rather not deal with fighting and wars and stuff like that, or killing. That's not the type of like information that I want to process through. I'm not trying to deny it. I'm not trying to turn a blind eye to it. It's just that I would rather much rather pay attention to like the banking industries, the trade, stuff like that. I feel that I can have a lot more useful information looking at that stuff than trying to follow what it is that governments are going to do about killing people. I just like, I'm just not into it, you know. And maybe I miss out on a lot of information because of that. But I mean, I think I'm doing okay with what I'm doing, you know, as far as what I'm looking at. All right, there's another one down here. $10 from Carlos. Hey, Carlos, thank you so much, man. Still going. Yeah, I am, man. I'm still going. I'm gonna go home though. I gotta go home to the family. You know. All right. Is there any more down here? Nope. All right. One last question, then I'm gonna bet. Buying our first income property tomorrow. Thank you for your analysis. Well, good for you, Gordon. I really appreciate you thanking me for the channel. I hope that everything works out for you well. I would like to get some income property myself at some point. As of right now, I really am not in a position to do that, but I would like to, you know, to do something like that in the future. And I tell you, if anybody else wants to, you should probably follow Matthew's channel, the Lumberjack Landlord. This is his game. That's what he talks about. I forget how many properties he has, but it is a lot. And he really knows what he's doing. You know, he's kind of like a guy like me. You know, from what he was saying, he didn't, you know, do very well in school, and, you know, was like kind of upset with the way that, you know, rental properties were towards him. So he decided that he was going to become an owner and start, you know, building up his property portfolio, starting off very young, or younger anyway, and has done a phenomenal job for himself. So I would love to follow in those kind of footsteps, you know, to see what he has done and how he's done it. And yeah, I encourage everybody to go check out Lumberjack Landlord's channel. Great dude. Alrighty guys, I'm out of here. I gotta go. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.